So here's what no one wants to say out loud, but everybody's low-key thinking, did Beyonce and Jay-Z really have something to do with Cathy White's death? And if so, why the hell was Diddy involved? Ally Carter is putting names on it now, saying straight up that Diddy hunted Cathy down. That's not just messy, that's calculated, and if you dig deep enough, the pieces, they start lining up in a way that's hard to ignore. Now, let's rewind to who Cathy White even was. Cathy wasn't just some random woman caught in the wrong place. She was allegedly Jay-Z's mistress. And not just that, according to Jaguar Wright, she was also acting as a surrogate for Beyonce and Jay-Z. Yeah, you heard that right. That's why people still side-eye Beyonce's baby bump photos. Remember that infamous clip where her stomach folded when she sat down? That weird moment still has folks convinced she was faking the whole pregnancy, and Cathy was the one actually carrying Blue Ivy. And right as the rumor started heating up, Cathy suddenly died. The official cause? A brain aneurysm. But you already know that don't sit right with people, especially because neighbors claim they heard screaming coming from her place the night she died. Screaming, not a peaceful medical episode. Then comes the blog Hollywood Street King, who was the first to break the J. Cathy affair. He didn't just report on it and move on, he went deep into investigating Cathy's death, even speaking with officers on the case. And guess what he was told? That her death was labeled suspicious. The autopsy and toxicology hadn't even been done yet, but somehow the internet already had it written off as an aneurysm. Here's where it really gets creepy. Cathy died exactly 1 year to the day after Hollywood Street King exposed her connection to Jay. 1 year to the day. Now, I'm not a big believer in coincidences, and this one, it's way too clean. But it doesn't stop there. See, according to Jaguar Wright, Cathy had recently been contacted by a tabloid investigating the Jay-Z affair. She gave them some hints and then called Jay, basically saying she was ready to talk for a price. And right after that, she's gone. Now here's the kicker. Ally Carter says Diddy was sent to hunt her down. Like literally. J and B didn't want to get their hands dirty, so they allegedly sent their close friend Diddy to track her. Once she was located, they handled the rest. And honestly, people aren't shocked. Diddy's name came up. With everything else that's been surfacing about him lately, his reputation's already circling the drain, and according to Jaguar, that's exactly why he's the one being exposed now, because he's the acceptable monster of the moment. Jay-Z, he's next in line. And to make this even messier, there's the song on Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album called Daughter. The lyrics describe a violent confrontation with a woman who was too bold with her man. Fans swear it's a coded confession about Cathy. One line straight up says, "Your bloodstains on my custom coutures." Who says that unless they're trying to send a subliminal? Beyonce had the power to control the narrative and she used it, whether through music, the media, or silence. But people are talking now, and more importantly, they're remembering. Remembering Cathy. Remembering the weird way that pregnancy played out. Remembering how the police shrugged off screams. Something happened. Something dirty. And if Ally's telling the truth, then Diddy's role wasn't just passive. He was active. He found Cathy, and once he did, she never got the chance to speak again. But this story's not over. There's still more tea, more connections, more names. You ready for that? The thing about Hollywood is that silence is rarely innocent. When Cathy White died, the media barely blinked. No major headline, no deep dives, just a quiet report about a sudden brain aneurysm and a wave of indifference. But behind the scenes, it hit a nerve with people who actually knew what she was involved in. And that includes Claudia Jordan. Claudia wasn't just Cathy's friend. She was her entry point into the industry's inner circle. Jay-Z, Diddy, even Beyonce. They were all connected through the same web of parties, clubs, and power moves. Claudia was the one who reportedly introduced Cathy to Jay-Z. And from there, everything escalated fast. People close to the situation say Cathy and Jay weren't just hooking up, they had a whole relationship. It was deep enough for Cathy to allegedly carry his child. And if Jaguar Wright's claims are even halfway true, Cathy's pregnancy wasn't just a scandal, it was a threat. According to Jaguar, Beyonce wasn't willing to risk that kind of exposure. The image she had crafted was too clean, too perfect. A cheating scandal? A surrogate exposed? That would have shattered everything. And when Cathy started talking about going public, apparently that was the last straw. Jaguar even claims Beyonce didn't just know about what was going down, she took charge. The story goes that a forced C-section was performed on Cathy to deliver Blue Ivy, and after that, Cathy was silenced permanently. That's not just dark, that's horrifying. Now here's where the timeline gets wild. Beyonce's pregnancy was announced just 48 hours before Cathy died. The public cheered. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Cathy was allegedly calling Jay, negotiating hush money. Then suddenly she's dead. And somehow the cause of death was already being pushed before any autopsy results were released. Hollywood Street King's investigation suggested Cathy was given something, maybe drugs, maybe something worse. The toxicology report was delayed, but the NYPD insider he spoke to was clear. This wasn't a typical aneurysm case. It was suspicious from the jump. And people haven't forgotten the weird hospital details. Beyonce supposedly gave birth at a New York hospital where they shut down an entire floor for her. That's not standard practice, that's lockdown behavior. And Blue Ivy's birth was kept so private, so guarded, that to this day, people still question whether it really went down the way they said. Then there's the music. Beyonce's song Daughter isn't even subtle. It talks about blood, violence, and revenge on a mistress who got too bold. Fans noticed immediately that the lyrics didn't feel like fantasy, they felt like a message. And it's not just that one track. Throughout her discography, there are references that sound like veiled threats and confessions. Jaguar says the Carters don't move alone. They use people. And when things get too messy, they cut ties fast. Diddy, she claims, was their go-to guy for this. He had the resources, the people, and the coldness to find Cathy. Once he did, the rest was handled quietly. But Jaguar doesn't think Diddy is the end of the chain. According to her, Jay-Z has a pattern. He uses people up and then pushes them aside once they've served their purpose. D. Haven, Dame Dash, Big L, even R. Kelly. Jaguar claims Jay lined them all up and took pieces of their identity, their careers, and their power. So when you ask who killed Cathy White, it's not just one name. It's a chain of names. A system built on silence, power, and disposal. And the scariest part, Cathy might not be the only one. The most disturbing part of all this isn't just the theories, it's how many of them feel less like conspiracies and more like open secrets. When Jaguar Wright said Diddy was the acceptable monster, it hit a nerve. Because it's true, once the public starts catching on, the industry always needs a fall guy. And right now, that fall guy is Sean Diddy Combs. But the real question is, who benefits when Diddy falls? Jaguar doesn't mince words. She says Jay-Z is next. He says the reason Diddy's facing this avalanche of exposure is because Jay threw him under the bus to protect himself. It's a strategy as old as the music business. Sacrifice the king's knight to shield the king. Diddy's name is all over recent headlines. Abuse, manipulation, even trafficking. But there's been a strange silence around Jay. That's not by accident. Jaguar believes Jay has been orchestrating takedowns behind the scenes for years. She claims he used DeHaven as a pawn, then stole his life story and made it his brand. Big L, same thing. Dame Dash, stripped of power, turned into a footnote. Even Beyonce's come-up, she suggests, was carefully curated through quiet betrayals and calculated image building. And if you believe any of what Jaguar is saying, then Cathy White wasn't a one-off. She was part of a pattern. Women and men alike getting erased, rewritten, or destroyed when they became liabilities. The industry has always been good at erasing problems, but social media changed the game. Now people screenshot everything. They remember, they compare dates, dig up lyrics, connect the dots. Ally Carter's sudden emergence into this conversation didn't feel random either. People online are saying she's connected to Jaguar, that she's feeding the fire because she's seen things herself. Ally's not just throwing names around, she's pointing fingers directly. She said it flat out. Diddy hunted Cathy, and while some dismiss her as clout chasing, others are listening. Because the allegations she dropped line up with what Hollywood Street King was saying years ago. They line up with what Cathy's neighbors said. They even line up with that eerie timeline of Cathy's death and Beyonce's pregnancy announcement. The public is starting to ask harder questions. Why did Cathy White's story disappear so fast? Why did her death get written off so quickly? Why was her connection to Jay-Z never explored by mainstream media? And why did that article from Hollywood Street King vanish days after going viral, like someone hit the panic button behind the scenes? Then there's the fans. Some of them are loyal to the end, but others are waking up. They're watching old interviews, they're replaying Beyonce's performances, listening to Jay-Z's lyrics with new ears, and a lot of people can't unsee what they're starting to see. When Jaguar talks about these celebrities like they're chess players on a bloody board, it's not just ranting, it's exposing. She says the ones in power can't be taken down by courts or police, they have those covered. Instead, it takes light, attention, exposure, people finally talking. So here we are, years after Cathy's death, with more questions than answers. But the noise is getting louder. Allie's voice, Jaguar's claims, Hollywood Street King's investigation, they're not going away. They're resurfacing. And maybe, just maybe, this time Cathy White won't be remembered as just a mistress or a footnote. Maybe she'll be remembered as the moment the truth started leaking out, on one piece at a time, one name at a time, until the whole structure shakes.